For now, Instagram continues to be the best and most popular platform for indie poets to share their work, and in turn gain exposure. Unfortunately, it also continues to be a game of mazes too, and I know that it remains a mystery to many. How do I know? Because my videos on Instapoetry are still the most popular on my channel, and I'm beginning to receive a fair amount of inboxes on my Instagram asking me questions. Many of them about how to spot a poem worth sharing on Instagram. So let me tell you how. As you can see using my account as an example, Instagram is entirely a game of metrics and results aren't always in your control. As someone with a decent sized following, engagement plummeted in the summer of last year. So as I always say, if you're determined to try your luck on Instagram, remember it is harder now than ever. But we're not here to talk about algorithms and vanity metrics. We're here to discuss how you can decide whether a poem is worth sharing on your Instagram. If you've been following my YouTube for a while, you'll know exactly what my problem is with some of the work that is on there, and I am guilty in this as well. But going back to vanity metrics really quickly, you can see that some of my poems, like this one, that is a quick and simple read, does far better than this one, which had more time spent on it. So why is that? Let me tell you. Tip 1 in identifying a worthy poem for your Instagram. Are you vibing with the piece? Having written your poem and now reading it back, does it excite you? Do you have butterflies in your stomach, or at the very least are you thinking, this could go down well on Instagram? For the first part of this statement, looking at whether the poem excites you or not, if you are proud and moved by the piece, and you really think it captures the mood that you were going for, chances are you have. If you're not entirely vibing with the piece, but you still feel that it's probably something that will go down well on Instagram, your gut instinct is usually always right. We are our own worst critics, so if you've written something but don't think it's amazing or, totally captures what you was going for, but it could be the sort of thing that people would like to read anyway, share it. Many a time I have written a piece and didn't think it was really all that great, but shared it anyway, and it turned out to be one of the most popular poems that I've shared. So I hear you asking, well, how do you know what will do well on Instagram? And there is a simple solution, my friends. It's read lots of Insta poems that are popular. Search popular poetry hashtags and read all the top posts, so much that eventually it becomes second nature, that you will know exactly what will do good. Search popular poetry hashtags and go through all the top posts many a times a day. Read them until it becomes second nature to identify what would be a pop poem. 2. I nearly skipped a tip. Pick a universal theme and write in the first person. Of course, it goes without saying that a poem with a strong universal theme will always do well. Love, death, fear, jealousy. I've also got a theory that a pop poem would do really well if you ditch sex. And I don't mean the act of, I mean the gender. Instead of using her, him, she, he, exclude the sexes and just write they. Appeal to the masses. I keep forgetting to do this, but I'd imagine it would work. Now, it's tip 3. How long will it take to read? Time is everything in all mediums. Film, fiction, and of course poetry. In page poetry, you've probably got a whole stanza to play with before a reader figures out whether your poem is worth reading or not. Spoken verse or slam poetry, probably about the same. Film, you have about maybe 10 to 20 minutes. And fiction, I would say a page to a chapter depending on the reader. Instapoetry, you've got probably 2 seconds. Exactly. Which is why you've got the craze of popular Instapoets writing every day sentences and statements. If you've built up a following, of course that extends the time you have to capture your reader, but I recommend keeping your poems as short as possible, especially if you're just starting out. Of course, there's always exceptions, and this is just a general rule of thumb. So do as you please. I'm now venturing down a totally different path than I have done previously with my poetry, and keeping all my longer pieces, which are all my new pieces, just for publication. But don't worry, if you're a follower of mine on Instagram, I will still be writing Instapoetry, but it will just be exclusive for my Instagram page. Instagram is a funny thing. There really is much to criticise about it, and the longer I spend sifting through and reading traditionally, the more I find myself scrolling past Instapoems. Yeah, it is still pop poetry, and the best way to reach an audience. And as much as I go over my work and want to gouge my eyes out, the more I realise if you can't beat them, join them. I realise that I am full of contradictions in all my Instapoetry videos, and I have no doubt that eventually I will become full circle and start coming to the defence of Instapoetry again. Because one day the Shakespeare of Instapoetry will present themselves and will blow us all away with their easy to read, accessible poems that still paint a picture and move us profoundly. And that could be you, my friend. I really hope that this video helped in some small way or big way. Hopefully big way. Hopefully you learnt a lot. Every time I do a video on Instapoetry, I'm convinced it will be my last, but many people are messaging me now asking lots of questions, and I just feel like, hey, that'll make a good video. Until next week, my friends, my name's Adam Gary. Follow me on my socials, download my free How to Become a Working Poet by clicking on the link in the description, and like and subscribe if this video helped you. Peace.